on the blood supply of the pituitary gland. Why you have to focus more on the blood supply of pituitary gland? Because the blood supply of pituitary gland is an example of portal system, portal circulation. Okay, so why it is an example of portal circulation? What happens in the blood supply of pituitary gland? Okay, for that you have to understand the portal circulation first, and how the blood is flowing in the pituitary gland. Okay, so regarding pituitary gland we will discuss in detail about the gross lecture, but now just a brief introduction. So what is the other name of pituitary gland? It is also called as Hypophysis cerebri. Okay, so it is a small endocrine gland. Now where it is situated? It is situated in relation to the base of the brain, or okay, it is situated in relation to the base of the brain. Okay, now I am using this particular term because we have not started with the neuro. Next, it is often also called as master of all glands because the secretion is controlling the secretions of other endocrine glands of our body. Okay, now where exactly the gland is situated? It is situated in the hypophyseal fossa. I have seen you have started with the osteology of skull. When you will study the interior of the skull, okay, at that time you will study the sphenoid bone, butterfly shaped bone रहता है, okay, sphenoid bone. In that you will be getting the hypophyseal fossa, or also called as sella turcica, or also called as pituitary fossa. Okay, very important place. So this is the location of the hypophysis cerebri or the pituitary gland. So in this fossa it is in the hanging condition. Okay, जो fossa रहता है, I hope you know what is fossa. So in that particular fossa, how the pituitary gland is situated? Hanging condition. Okay. Now and the roof, जो fossa का roof होता है, that is formed by the diaphragma cellae. Diaphragma cellae is nothing but the part of a dura mater. Okay, dura mater, arachnoid mater, pia mater, like this. These are folds. Okay, dural folds. So this diaphragma cellae is a fold of dura mater. Okay. Next, the stalk of the hypophysis cerebri. Stalk means the part which makes the gland hanging from the floor of the third ventricle. So that will pierce the diaphragma cellae and is attached above to the floor of the third ventricle. I hope you know that inside the brain ventricles are present. Okay. What is the function of those ventricles? Production of CSF. So it will produce, it will store, and from there circulation of CSF is also taking place. Okay, inside the ventricles. So ventricles are present inside the brain also. So among them, one ventricle is the floor, third ventricle. So from the floor of the third ventricle, the pituitary gland is hanging by stalk, or also called as infundibulum, or also called as infundibular stalk. Now if you see the gland, what is the shape? It is oval in shape. Dimensions are very small, only 8 millimeter anteroposteriorly. Just imagine 8 millimeter anteroposteriorly and 12 millimeter transversely. Anterior posteriorly 8 millimeter रहता है, transversely 12 millimeter रहता है, and the weight is only 500 milligram. Okay, so you can imagine how small the gland is. Next, here you can see which bone is this, anyone? ये कौन सा bone है? Sphenoid bone. Okay, it is sphenoid bone. Can you see the shape? It is butterfly shaped. Okay, now if you see, now I am not going into the parts of the sphenoid bone. If you see the middle of, or if you say the body of the sphenoid bone, then at the middle part you can see a depression is there. This one, ये वाला part. So this is called as sella turcica, or also called as pituitary fossa or hypophyseal fossa. Okay, तो इसका anteriorly रहता है tuberculum cellae, this part, and this part is called as dorsum cellae. These are the boundaries, and इसका जो roof होता है, तो this is the posterior boundary, this is the anterior boundary, और एक ऐसे roof रहेगा. Okay, now this roof is made up of diaphragma cellae, which is a dura mater, fold of dura mater. तो जो उसका जो stalk रहता है, infundibular stalk, it will pierce the dura mater, diaphragma cellae, and then it is attached to the floor of the third ventricle. Okay, so this is how the pituitary gland is lying in the hypophyseal fossa. तो I hope you can see the diagram. So this is the third ventricle. See, this is the flow from the floor of the third ventricle. The pituitary gland is in hanging condition. Okay. See, this is the third ventricle. From the floor of the third ventricle, the pituitary gland is in hanging position, and this is the infundibular stalk, okay, or the stalk of the pituitary gland. Okay. So I hope you can see the shape of the pituitary gland, which is oval in shape. Dimension already we have discussed. Next we have to understand the parts of the pituitary gland. Okay. Why the parts of the pituitary gland is important? Any idea? Yes. Because hormones secreted from both the parts are different. Along with that, you should know one thing. The developmental source is also different. Okay, so subdivisions of the pituitary gland. So mainly it is having two parts. The pituitary gland is mainly divided into two parts. Okay, called as anterior lobe and posterior lobe. Now they are having other names also. Anterior lobe is called as adenohypophysis, or also called as anterior lobe, consists of glandular epithelium. That means mostly the hormones which are secreted, those are secreted, mostly, not all, they are secreted from the anterior lobe, or also called as adenohypophysis. Next, posterior lobe is called as neurohypophysis, or also called as posterior lobe, and it consists of neurosecretory tissue. Mainly the nerve fibers are there, okay, on the posterior lobe. Now it doesn't mean that hormones are not coming out. Listen, जो posterior lobe होता है, or also called as neurohypophysis, from there hormones are coming out, but hormones are not secreted by the posterior lobe. Okay, from where they are secreting we'll discuss, but please keep that in mind. From the posterior lobe or the neurohypophysis, from there hormones are released in the blood. They are not produced. Next, adenohypophysis, again it is divided into three parts. What are these? Pars distalis, pars intermedia, and pars tuberalis. Okay, pars distalis is most anterior most part of the adenohypophysis. Next, intermedia means the intermediate part. Okay, and pars tuberalis. Tuberalis is a collar-like extension of the adenohypophysis around the infundibulum. Okay. नेक्स्ट न्यूरोहाइपोफाइसिस, इसका भी दो पार्ट होता है, पार्ट्स नर्वोसा एंड इनफंडिबुलम. इनफंडिबुलम इज द स्टॉक व्हिच इज मेकिंग द पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड इन हैंगिंग कंडीशन, दैट इज द इनफंडिबुलम. ओके, एंड पार्ट्स नर्वोसा. नर्वोसा मीन्स वेयर द नर्व फाइबर्स आर प्रेजेंट, एंड दोज नर्व फाइबर्स आर कमिंग फ्रॉम हाइपोथैलेमस. ओके, now this infundibulum, the nerve fibers which are coming, okay, from the hypothalamus, they are forming the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tracts. Now those nerve fibers, they are also called as hypothalamo-hypophyseal tracts. Now here you can see the diagram, parts of the pituitary gland. So first of all, it is divided into how many parts? Two parts. Parts anterior, parts posterior, also called as anterior lobe and posterior lobe, or also called as adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Now adenohypophysis is having how many parts? Three parts. What are they? Pars distalis, then intermedia, and tuberalis. Can you see the parts? See, this is the pars distalis. Can you see the intermediate area? This is the pars intermedia, and this collar-like extension from the anterior lobe, this is called as pars tuberalis. Okay, so these are the parts of adenohypophysis or anterior lobe. ठीक है, posterior lobe का कितना part होता है? Two parts are there. What are they? Infundibulum. See, this is the infundibulum and pars nervosa. This is the pars nervosa. So infundibulum is the part which makes the pituitary gland in hanging condition in the pituitary fossa. ठीक है. Now where it is attached? ये जो इनफंडिबुलम है, वेयर इट इज अटैच्ड, ऊपर कहाँ पे अटैच रहता है? यू कैन सी फ्लोर ऑफ द थर्ड वेंट्रिकल. ये देखो ऊपर थर्ड वेंट्रिकल दिया हुआ है, तो फ्रॉम द फ्लोर ऑफ द थर्ड वेंट्रिकल इट इज अटैच्ड. नाउ इसके अंदर क्या रहता है? जो इनफंडिबुलम है, इफ यू टेक ए सेक्शन ऑफ द इनफंडिबुलम, क्या दिखाई देगा? यू विल सी द ट्रैक्ट्स, hypothalamo-hypophyseal tracts. That means the fibers which are coming from the hypothalamus. okay, और उसका जो टर्मिनल पार्ट है, that terminal part is present in the pars posterior or also called as pars nervosa. Okay, so this is the overall structure of pituitary gland. Okay, such a small gland but having complex structure. If we go inside, it will become more complex. Okay, next, so we'll not go more in detail about the gross structure. Okay, directly we'll go to the histology. Now in histology, first of all we'll see the adenohypophysis. Okay, that means what we have to see in the adenohypophysis, what are the different types of cells present in the adenohypophysis. जो adenohypophysis है उसमें कौन सा cells रहता है, and from there what are the secretions taking place. Okay, now obviously we are using H&E staining. So the cells which are present over there, with the help of H&E stain, what is the appearance that we have to know. Okay, other stains are also there. For example, see, PAS staining method is there, but here we don't use PAS staining method. Okay, we only use H&E. So under H&E staining, suppose pars anterior, how it appears under microscope, that only you have to know. Okay. So see, it consists of clumps or cords of cells which are separated by fenestrated sinusoidal capillaries. Please keep that in mind. In most of the cases, you have noticed that जो भी endocrine glands रहता है, mostly in that sinusoidal capillaries are present. Okay, that is common in most of the cases, if you have noticed. Okay, तो क्या रहेगा? First of all, cords of cells will be there. Okay, and those cords of cells are separated from each other by sinusoidal capillaries, fenestrated sinusoidal capillaries. So what are fenestrated sinusoidal capillaries? Already have discussed. Now under H&E staining, okay, we will see that anterior pituitary are grouped by two different types of cells, that is chromophil cells and chromophobe cell. तो जो parts anterior है और adenohypophysis, if we prepare a slide from that particular area, what we can see, only two types of cells are there. First of all, we will see the cells are in the form of cords and they are separated from each other by fenestrated sinusoidal capillaries. ठीक है. Next point, under H&E stain, what we can see, two types of cells are there, chromophobes and chromophil. Now you have to know the difference between chromophobe and chromophil. So what is the meaning of chromophils and what is the meaning of chromophobe? Anyone? 50% chromophobe रहता है, 50% chromophils रहता है. ठीक है? Any idea what is the difference between chromophobe and chromophil? Yes, what kind of stain? हाँ. No. Stain will be, अगर stain नहीं लिया तो कैसे पता चलेगा cell से? If a cell is not taking the stain, how will come to know that cell is there? Yes. हाँ. You are partially correct. Anyone else? The difference between chromophil and chromophobe? Very simple. देखो जो chromophils होता है, they are brightly stained. Why? Because of the granules. और जो chromophobes है, there will be no granules. Okay, so based on that, easily we can differentiate what are chromophil and what are chromophobe. Next, first point. Second point is, under chromophil we are getting two different types of cells, that is basophil cells and acidophil cell. Basophil cell का meaning क्या है? Those take basic dyes. The cells which take basic dyes, those are basophil. Acidophil means which will take acidic dye. ठीक है, तो मोस्टली सेल्स आर टेकिंग एसिडिक डाई, दैट्स व्हाई दे आर 40% इन नंबर. ठीक है, एंड बेसोफिल्स ओनली 10%. So I hope you have got the point. First of all, two types of cells are there under H&E stain. What are they? Chromophil and chromophobe. ठीक है, तो chromophil में क्या होता है? Granules रहता है, granules are present, and in case of chromophobe, granules are absent. तो granule absent means कोई secretion नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं, so we'll ignore that cell. ठीक है, that means this 50%, this is also 50% and this 50%. Now here no granules are present. So if granules are absent, that means no secretion. So no secretion means we don't have to study. We'll ignore this one. Okay, we'll study mainly these two types of cells. Now in these two types are there, acidophil and basophil. Which one is more? Acidophils are more, 40%. Basophil only 10%. Basophil का मतलब क्या है? It will take basic dye. Acidophil का मतलब क्या है? It will take acidic dye. As simple as that. ठीक है? Now other staining methods are also there. Don't think that only H&E staining methods are there. Other staining methods are also there. Okay, but here we will not go into the other staining method. We will confine ourselves into up to H&E methods only. Now in basophils you can see the granules stained with basic dye. So you know that hematoxylin is a basic dye. Hence what will be the color? Blue color. Next, if you see the acidophil, they take the acidic dye, that is eosin, and hence the color will be bright pink. So like this we can differentiate the acidophil and basophil cells. Next, histochemical and immunohistochemical staining. This is also a type of staining. Depending on the secretory proteins and peptides, acidophil, basophils are further classified into. In acidophils, different types of cells are there. Okay, these are somatotropes and lectotropes. So what is acidophil, what is basophil, that we have differentiated. We know how to differentiate. Next, what we have to do, based on the secretion, mainly based on the secretory protein and peptide. So cells, special cells, uska function kya rahega? What will be the function of those cells? Secretion. Anterior pituitary is the area where the secretions are taking place, hormones. So the cells which are present, what will be the function of those cells? Secretion. ठीक है? तो जो secretion होता है, all the secretions are not same. It is different, right? So based on those secretion, the classification is done. Okay? I am talking about acidophil. Next we'll go to the basophil. Now in case of acidophil, the classification is done depending on the secretory protein and peptides. Depending on the secretory protein and peptides, both in acidophil and basophil, the classification is done. Now in acidophils, we are having somatotropes and lectotropes. So what is somatotropes? Somatotropes, what is the function? To secrete somatotrophin hormone. Somatotrophin hormone का function क्या है? It is also called as growth hormone. Okay, you know that, you have studied. So this constitutes 50% of the anterior pituitary and produce growth hormone, are also called as somatotrophin. Now what is the function? Regulates the growth before the puberty. Next, lectotropes are also called as memotropes, 15 to 20% anterior pituitary. And what is the function? They produce prolactin. Prolactin का function क्या है? Yes? Huh? During lactation period. Okay, so under acidophil, depending on the secretory protein and peptide, two types, somatotropes and lectotropes. तो somatotropes से कौन सा हार्मोन सीक्रेट होता है, उसका क्या फंक्शन है, ठीक है. lectotrope कौन सा हार्मोन एंड व्हाट इज द फंक्शन, ठीक है. So this is about the acidophil. What is the next? Basophil. Okay, next basophil. So basophil, we are having three different types of cells: corticotropes, gonadotropes and thyrotropes. Corticotropes का function क्या है? Corticotropes का function क्या है? It will secrete ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. इसका function क्या होगा? हाँ? ACTH, it will stimulate the adrenal gland to secrete cortisols. Next, gonadotropes. So already you know that gonadotropes, 10% of the anterior pituitary secretes LH and follicle stimulating hormone. LH is having a function in both male and female. Follicle stimulating hormone will stimulate the follicles in the ovary. Next, thyrotropes. So thyrotropes already we have studied that day in thyroid follicles. Okay, so thyrotropes will secrete which hormone? Thyroid stimulating hormone. And thyroid stimulating hormone का function क्या है? It will, yes, it will determine, or you can say it will control the activity of the follicles present in the thyroid gland. Okay, that is the TSH or thyroid stimulating hormone. So see, first what we have seen in case of anterior pituitary or adenohypophysis under H&E staining, first of all cells are in the form of cords. Cords के बीच में क्या रहता है? Fenestrated sinusoidal capillaries. Next, under H&E staining, what we have seen? Two types of cells are there, chromophobes and chromophils. Chromophobe में क्या रहता है? कुछ नहीं रहता है, so we'll ignore that. Chromophils में क्या रहता है? Granules रहता है. Now granules, how many types of granules are there? Two types of granules are there. Okay, someone is taking acidic dye, some cells are taking basic dye. Okay, so how many percentage of cells are taking acidic dye? Approximately 40%. Okay, and 10% will take acidic dye. Okay, next under acidophil and basophil, okay, what are the different subclassifications? Under acidophil and basophil, what are the subclassification? That is depending on the hormones which are secreted and which type of protein and which type of polypeptides are present. Based on that, the classification is done. Okay, so see, depending on the secretory protein and peptides, acidophil and basophil cells are further classified. Okay, in case of acidophil, we are getting two types: somatotropes and leucotropes. Okay, somatotropes and lectotropes. And in case of basophils, we are getting corticotropes, gonadotropes and thyrotropes. Okay? Now these are the particular type of cells. From those cells, which hormone is secreted and what is the function? At least that much should be there when you are writing about the pituitary gland. Okay? So that is all about which part of the pituitary gland? Yes, adenohypophysis. Next is the pars intermedia. Actually, not adenohypophysis, it is the, you can say, pars distalis. Next, pars intermedia. तो pars intermedia कहाँ पे रहता है? In between the pars distalis and pars nervosa. दोनों के बीच में रहता है pars intermedia. So pars intermedia is not well developed in human being. It consists of series of colloid filled vesicles. Okay, it can be seen. The cavity of these vesicles represent residuals of a lumen called Rathke's pouch. Okay, so Rathke's pouch is a this particular area develops in embryology. You will be studying about the Rathke's pouch. Okay, तो क्या होता है? If you see the intermediate area, okay, in front of the just anterior to the intermediate area, you can see a cleft is present. Okay, now that cleft represent the remnant of the Rathke's pouch. So cells of the follicles or the vesicles are basophils and chromophobes. Okay, basophils are also there, chromophobes are also there. Now the cells which are there, basophils, they secrete MSH, or also called as melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay, now you know the function, production of skin pigment by melanocytes. Okay, so from pars intermedia is a area which is situated between the pars distalis and pars nervosa. Okay, just anterior to this a cleft, interglandular cleft is present, and that represents the remnant of Rathke's pouch. Next, in that particular area, what you can see the follicles or vesicles where basophils and chromophobe cells are present, and from those basophil cells one hormone is secreted. What is that? Melanocyte stimulating hormone. उसका function क्या है? Production of skin pigments by melanocytes. Okay, so that is about the pars intermedia. So can you see the pars intermedia, or also called as intermediate lobe? ये देखो, this is the pars intermedia. Now, so which part is anterior and which part is posterior? In this diagram, this part is anterior, this part is posterior. So this is the intermediate area. ठीक है, दिस इज द पार्ट्स डिस्टलिस एंड दिस इज द पार्ट्स नर्वोसा. दोनों के बीच में जो ये एरिया है, दिस इज कॉल्ड द पार्ट्स इंटरमीडिया. ठीक है, नाउ जस्ट एंटीरियर टू द पार्ट्स इंटरमीडिया, कैन यू सी ए क्लेफ्ट? नाउ दैट इज शोइंग द रेमिनेंट ऑफ राथकेस पाउच. ठीक है, यहाँ से कौन सा हार्मोन सीक्रेट होता है? MSH, मेलानोसाइट स्टिमुलेटिंग हार्मोन. नेक्स्ट इज द पार्ट्स ट्यूबेरालिस. कैन यू सी द पार्ट्स ट्यूबेरालिस जो ऊपर जा रहा है? पार्ट्स ट्यूबेरालिस, कैन यू सी? ये वाला part, this one. So pars tuberalis is the part of adenohypophysis only, which is making a collar, or you can say collar-like extension of the adenohypophysis. Okay, and that collar is surrounding which part? Infundibulum. If you can see the diagram properly, ये देखो, this is the infundibular stem, ठीक है? This is the infundibular stem. Now around the infundibular stem, can you see a collar? Now that is made up of pars tuberalis. Now this pars tuberalis is a part of adenohypophysis. So what do you think? Which hormone will be secreted from pars tuberalis? No hormone is secreted from pars tuberalis. ठीक है, hormone secret नहीं होता है. So you can see it is an extension from the anterior pituitary, wraps around the infundibular stalk, highly vascular region, and has primary capillary plexus of hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. Any organ where portal system is present, उसका speciality होता है, 2 different types of plexuses will be there. Okay. अगर 2 plexus नहीं होता है and 2 plexus is connected by a set of veins, okay, that is the speciality of portal venous system. Here also same thing is taking place. The first set of plexus which is formed, that is in the pars tuberalis, and it is highly vascular region, primary capillary plexus of hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system is formed. Okay, that's why this region is very important. Next, pars tuberalis consists of small clusters of cords of cell, both acidophils and basophils, but secretions are not taking place. Next is the neurohypophysis. So neurohypophysis is which part? Posterior part. Please see the diagram. Can you identify the pars posterior or neurohypophysis? Everyone, please see the diagram carefully. So this entire part is called as pars posterior or neurohypophysis. Neurohypophysis का कितना part है? How many parts are there of the neurohypophysis? 2 parts. What are they? Infundibulum and pars nervosa. Unless and until you understand the basic structure of pituitary gland, you will not understand the secretions. You will get confused. Okay, now in case of pars posterior, it consists of numerous unmyelinated nerve fibers. Now those unmyelinated nerve fibers, from where they are coming? They are coming from supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus. Okay, supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of hypothalamus. From there, the unmyelinated nerve fibers which are coming, those are mainly present in the pars posterior. Okay. Now situated between these axons, some supporting cells are there, and these are called as pituicytes. In between those axons, some supporting cells are there, and these are called as pituicytes, which are also present in that particular region. Now axon descending into the pars posterior from hypothalamus, they will end terminals closely related to the capillaries. So whenever a nerve is ending, okay, the terminal part will be present in close to the capillaries, blood capillaries. And already I have told you the tuberalis, okay, is highly vascular in nature. So as you can see, the axons descending from the pars posterior, okay, or from the hypothalamus, इसका जो terminals होता है, these are closely related to the capillaries. Now the neurosecretions or the hormones secreted by supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei, okay, how they will go to the pars posterior? They will travel through these neurons and is stored along the axons as well as dilated nerve terminals. So जो nerve terminals होता है, that means the nerve fibers which are coming from hypothalamus. From which nuclei of the hypothalamus? Supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus. From there the fibers which are coming, उसका जो terminal parts होता है, those are dilated and they are also called as herring bodies. So the secretion which is taking place from the hypothalamus through those nerve fibers, they used to come and they are stored in that terminal, okay, in the dilated part, and that dilated part, terminal part, is called as herring bodies. Okay, because on H&E staining this takes eosine stain, pink color stain. Okay, these are herring bodies. So from there, in that particular part, they will come and they will store, and whenever it is required, it is released in the blood because they are situated close to the blood capillaries. Okay, तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Parts posterior or you can say neurohypophysis is not secreting hormones. They are releasing the hormones, and those hormones are secreted in hypothalamus. ठीक है, कहाँ से secrete होता है? Two nuclei are there, supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. And how they are coming into the pars posterior or nervosa with the help of this nerve terminals or with the help of these nerve fibers, and they are accumulated in the dilated portion, and that is called as herring bodies, and that herring bodies can be seen under H&E stain. And what is the appearance? It is pink appearance because they are taking the eosine stain. So hormones released at pars nervosa is vasopressin, and from supraoptic nucleus oxytocin is secreted. Okay, तो इसका फंक्शन क्या है? वेसोप्रेसिन also called as ADH, antidiuretic hormone, and oxytocin, what is the function? Controls the contraction of smooth muscle of uterus and mammary gland. Okay, ADH antidiuretic hormone helps in the reabsorption, selective reabsorption from kidney tubules. So whatever we have discussed, this is the gist of the story. As you can see, first of all, pituitary gland is having two parts, adenohypophysis and neurohypophysis. Okay? Now in adenohypophysis, how many parts are there? Three parts are there: pars distalis, tuberalis, and pars intermedia. Now in case of pars distalis, two different types of cells are there: chromophils and chromophobes. So what I have said about the chromophobes, no secretory granules, so we'll ignore those cells. Okay? Next you can see the chromophils. In chromophils, how many types of cells are there? Two types, based on the stain which they are taking. Okay, so acidophil cells and basophil cells. That means acidic dye and basic dye. So under acidophil you can see somatotropes and lactotropes, and basophil corticotropes, gonadotropes, and thyrotropes. Okay? And the pars intermedia, it is secreting only one hormone, that is melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay? And what about the neurohypophysis? Neurohypophysis is releasing two hormones, that is ADH, or also called as vasopressin and oxytocin. Okay? So this should be there when you are writing about the practical notebook. Okay, if you study this particular chart, you will understand about the parts of the pituitary gland, along with that the secretions also. Okay, now this is the diagram. So by looking at the diagram, can anyone tell me which one is pars anterior and which one is pars posterior? कौन सा pars anterior है यहाँ पे? This is, what is this? Yes, pars anterior. Yes, very good. And this is pars posterior. Now pars anterior में क्या रहता है? Mainly two types of cells, chromophil and chromophobe. ठीक है, so we'll concentrate only on chromophil cells. Chromophil cells में भी दो टाइप का होता है, acidophil and basophil. ठीक है, can you see the diagram over here? Can you identify the chromophobes? Can you identify the chromophils? ठीक है, if you concentrate over here, so why will not study about chromophobes? No secretory granules, मतलब no secretion. ठीक है, but we will study about the chromophils. उसमें secretory granules रहता है. Now here we have to classify these chromophils into two types, acidophil and basophil. Acidophil means it will take which dye? Acidic dye. If it takes acidic dye, what will be the appearance? Pink color appearance. Just see whether the appearance is pink or not. ये देखो, ये देखो. ठीक है, next basophil, that means it will take basic dye. If it is taking basic dye, what will be the appearance? Purple or blue in color. So you can see purple or blue in color. Okay, like this we can identify which are acidophil cells and which are basophil cells. अगर ऐसे दिखाई देता है, इसका मतलब क्या है? These are chromophil cells. ठीक है, and chromophobe cells you can see very small, and granules are not present, so the appearance is dark appearance. Okay, darkly stained. Can you see the chromophobes? ये देखो, this one chromophobe, this one chromophobe. So they will appear darkly stained cell. तो हो गया. So this is for which part of the pituitary gland? Pars anterior, or also called as adenohypophysis. ठीक है. Next, here you can see the pars intermedia. ये देखो पार्ट्स इंटरमीडिया. तो पार्ट्स इंटरमीडिया में क्या दिखाई देगा? एज आई सेड, फॉलिकल्स विल बी देयर और आल्सो कॉल्ड एज वेसिकल्स, व्हाटएवर यू वांट. इसके अंदर क्या रहेगा? कॉलॉइड रहेगा, एज यू कैन सी इन द डायग्राम. ओके, सो सी दिस इज वन follicle, this is one follicle. So inside the follicle what you can see? Colloid is present. Okay, next, what type of cells will be there inside the pars intermedia? Which cells will be there in the pars intermedia? Basophil cells will be present and chromophobe cells will be there. So chromophobe to no function, and the basophil cells which are there, उसका function क्या है? To produce one hormone, that is the MSH, melanocyte stimulating hormone. Okay, तो ये हो गया pars intermedia. Okay. Next, if you go posterior to the pars intermedia, ये कौन सा part है? Which part is this? Pars posterior, or also called as neurohypophysis. Neurohypophysis. What you can expect in the neurohypophysis? Mainly you can expect the unmyelinated nerve fibers. From where they are coming? Supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of hypothalamus. ठीक है, फर्स्ट पॉइंट. इन बिटवीन द फाइबर some supporting cells are there, and those are called as pituicytes. That can also be seen. Next, what you can see, the fibers which are coming in the terminal part, a dilatation is there, and that dilatation is seen under H&E stain. It appears pink in color, and those are called as herring bodies. उसमें क्या रहता है? The hormones which are secreted from the hypothalamus, they will come and they will be stored inside those dilatations which are present at the nerve terminal. Okay, and those nerve terminals are closely related to the blood capillaries, so that the release can take place easily. Okay, which you can see over here. So I hope you can see the pituicytes. Can you see the pituicytes? ये देखो, these are the pituicytes. Okay, these are the pituicytes. After that, can you see the herring bodies? So these are the herring bodies. That means these are the nerve terminals, and these are the blood capillaries. Okay, so this is the appearance for pituitary gland. ठीक है, this is the schematic diagram. तो see, listen, in the practical notebook, okay, if time is there, then draw both the diagrams. अगर time कम है, then draw only this one. Okay, these both diagrams, why I have added, so that you can understand कि कौन सा पार्ट में क्या रहता है. If time is not there, I am talking about practical notebook, and during the time of exam also, if you draw this diagram, is more than enough. So these are schematic diagrams. Next, here you can see which diagram is this. This is the pituitary gland. Which part of the pituitary? Mainly you can see the parts anterior. Okay, under low magnification. तो what you can see, क्या दिखाई दे रहा है? Yes, okay. See, chromophils easily you can see. So you can see the basophils also, you can see the acidophils also. So mostly you can see acidophil, basophil, and some dilatation which are present. These are nothing but the sinusoidal capillary. Okay, now in the slide, histology slide of pituitary gland, it is not compulsory that every time the section will go through pars anterior and posterior together. Sometime it may go through only the pars anterior, which can be seen in this case. Okay, this is more important because in pars posterior hardly cells are present, mainly nerve fibers are present. Okay, now there are some other points also which I will not ask you to write in the practical notebook unnecessarily. Okay, but I hope you have studied this in case of physiology. That is the control of pituitary gland by hypothalamus, right? Here you can see hypothalamic regulating hormones. इसका मतलब क्या है? That means hypothalamus are secrete. Hypothalamus is secreting some peptide hormones. Those peptide hormones will regulate the production of other hormones which secreting from the pituitary gland. Okay. So here can you see plus minus written? Okay. तो मीनिंग क्या है प्लस एंड माइनस का? माइनस दैट मीन्स इट विल इनहिबिटरी, इट विल इनहिबिट द सिक्रेशन. लाइक दिस द बैलेंस इज मेंटेन. ठीक है. सो दिस इज कम्प्लीटली physiology. That's why I am not going in detail about this, and this you don't have to write also in the practical notebook. Okay. I don't know whether you have studied. I thought that you have not studied in physiology. Though you have studied, then we will not discuss it. Okay. Next, another point is left, but that will be discussed in the gross lecture of the pituitary gland. Okay, I am talking about the blood supply. Okay, here you can see how the blood is flowing through the pituitary gland. ठीक है. तो pituitary gland में दो arteries रहता है, superior and inferior hypophyseal arteries. Mainly they are branches of internal carotid artery. Okay. So you can see primary fenestrate capillary plexus. This is the primary capillary plexus. Okay. Then hypophyseal portal veins are there, and then again you can see secondary capillary venous plexus in pars distalis. So two capillary plexuses are there, and these are connected by veins. That's why the portal circulation is present in the pituitary gland also. Okay, this is not a part of histology, that's why I am not going in detail about this. All those things will be discussed in the theory lecture. Okay, and this thing is very important. Next, this is the chart where you can see all the hormones secreted from different parts of the pituitary gland. Along with that, their functions. Okay, so you can see the anterior pituitary, the hormones, name of the hormones, target organs and function. Same posterior pituitary, target organs and function. Okay. So till now whatever we have discussed, this particular slide, this one and this one, you don't have to write anything in the practical notebook. Okay. But this you have to mention, this one. Okay. So that is all about the pituitary gland. Okay, next is the pineal gland. Anyone, have you heard about the pineal gland? Pineal gland. Anyone, have you heard about the pineal gland? Pineal gland are also called as pineal body. Huh? Okay, so pineal gland also called as pineal body is a pyriform structure present in the relation to the posterior wall of the third ventricle. So this is also related to the third ventricle. That also posterior wall of the third ventricle. Okay, and it is called as Epiphysis cerebri. Previous one called as Hypophysis cerebri. This is called as Epiphysis cerebri. Okay. Pineal gland is more smaller as compared to the pituitary gland. Just see the dimension. Weight is around 0.1 to 0.2 gram. Okay, and it is a part of epithalamus. So it is flat pine cone structure. That is why it is also called as pineal gland. Now in the microscopic structure is very simple. First of all, a covering is there, and that covering is provided to the pineal gland by pia mater. So we know that in meninges how many layers are there? 3 layers are there: dura mater, outermost, arachnoid mater and pia mater. Okay, 3 layers are there. Among them, which one is the innermost? Pia mater is the innermost one. Okay, so this pia mater, which is covering the brain, it is forming a capsule for the pineal gland. From that capsule, the septa will go into the gland and it will divide it into incomplete lobules. Okay. To see pia mater forming the capsule which extends septa into the gland and divides it into incomplete lobules. Now if you take a section of the pineal gland, stain with H&E, what it will show? It will show a mass of cells which there are blood capillaries and nerve fibers. Mass of cells will be there. Okay, mainly 2 types of cells. Along with that, what you can see? Capillaries and nerve fibers. These are the constituent of the pineal gland when it is seen under microscope. Now, the distinctive feature of the pineal gland is the presence of irregular masses made up of calcium salts. Okay, irregular masses are there made up of calcium salts, and these are called as corpora arenacea. Okay, corpora arenacea, or also called as brain stent. इसका appearance कैसे होता है? This under H&E it will take dark blue and shows lamellated appearance. Okay, dark blue in color under H&E and lamellated appearance are there of this particular structure. So these are nothing but the calcium salts. Okay, and this corpora arenacea is a distinctive feature of the pineal gland that is seen only in the pineal gland. So from there you can easily identify. Next, corpora arenacea is considered as identifying feature of the pineal gland histologically and radiologically also whenever CT scan is done. Next, the gland composed of two types of cells, as you can see, pinealocytes and interstitial cells. Two different types of cells are there. Okay, if you remember the parathyroid gland, how many types of cells are there in parathyroid glands? Two types of cells. What are they? Chief cells and oxyphil cells, right? So similarly here also only two types of cells are there. Pinealocytes are there and interstitial cells are there. Interstitial cells are nothing but the supporting cells. ठीक है? Now ये जो दो टाइप का cells है, ठीक है? How to identify them under microscope? If you see the interstitial cells, they are darkly stained. जो interstitial cells होता है supporting cells, they are darkly stained. Okay, they are having astrocyte like appearance, that means star like appearance. Okay, and these pinealocytes, these are lightly stained, or you can say pale staining. So like this easily it can be identified. So you can see pinealocytes, the number is approximately 95% and 5% are the interstitial cells. Okay, so from there also easily it can be identified. Now these are arranged in clumps or cords within the lobules. So first of all I have mentioned that septa is there, incomplete lobules are there. If you take one particular lobule, इसमें क्या दिखाई देगा? First of all you will be able to see two different types of cell. Okay, what are those two different types of cells? Pinealocytes and interstitial cells. ठीक है? तो interstitial cells only 5%, pinealocytes 95%. तो pinealocytes का appearance कैसे होगा? Pale staining cells with spherical nucleus. Okay. Now function, what is the function? It secretes a hormone that is called as melatonin. Next, interstitial cells are also called as glial cells, only 5%. Okay, nuclei are smaller, more elongated than pinealocytes. Now, pinealocytes are separated from each other by these neuroglial cells, and they are having astrocytes-like structure. That means star-like appearance. Now, they lie proximity to the blood vessels. These cells are dark staining, elongated nucleus. Okay, so this particular type of cells, interstitial cells, first of all, the number is also less, and they are darkly stained. Pinealocytes, pale stain, more number. Okay, so like this easily it can be differentiated. And what is the another striking feature? Means if you take a lobule, इसके अंदर क्या दिखाई देगा? Mainly दो type का cells दिखाई देगा. Along with that, what else you can see? Corpora arenacea. Okay, what is that? This is nothing but the deposition of calcium salts. Okay, उसका appearance कैसे होगा? Lamellated structure. So that also it will take blue color stain. Yeah, so this is the diagram. Now in this diagram you can see the interstitial cells. Can you see the interstitial cells? I hope you can see the interstitial cells. Okay, see these are the interstitial cells. Next, mostly can you see the pinealocytes? ये देखो pinealocytes are more. See these are the pinealocytes. These are more. These are pale staining, and interstitial cells or glial cells, these are less, these are darkly stained. So like this it can be differentiated easily. Okay, so which are pinealocytes and which are interstitial cells. Okay, now this corpora arenacea which is present. Okay, as I said, lamellated structure. Okay. So this is the schematic diagram. Now in this schematic diagram you can see these are the lamellated structure. Okay, where corpora arenacea, this is the appearance. Okay, and here you can see pinealocytes. Actually, this schematic diagram is not that perfect. That's why I have added this particular image. Okay, and in this particular image, you can identify the pinealocytes and you can identify the interstitial cells easily. Now, what is the function of the pinealocyte? It secretes melatonin. Melatonin का function क्या है? Yes. Have you heard about Cricardian cycle? You have studied in physiology. Very good. So see here I have mentioned about the Cricardian cycle, the stages. Okay. Cricardian rhythm or Cricardian cycle. Here I have mentioned means during daytime and during night time what happens. Okay. And the melatonin production, what is the significance and what is the function, that is also mentioned over here. Okay, so that is all about the pineal gland.